All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I'm your host, Cardon Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everyone. How you doing?
And we got a special guest in studio today. You're going to have to correct me on this if I botch it. A thrice elected California State Assemblyman.
Well done with the thrice. That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
Awesome. So, and now current nonpartisan member of Santa Clarita City Council, Cameron Smyth, is an actual legit elected Republican who, while serving in the California State Assembly, was a very effective legislator. So we decided we want to get him in here to talk about the merits of UBI, the fors, the against, and kind of have a no-nonsense, what's the reality of the situation. And for our viewers out there that are kind of unfamiliar with California other than what they see on news, California Republicans are the most reasonable people on earth, okay? The show is Problem Solver Politics, and when it comes to actually problem solving, I have never met more rational and reasonable people than California Republicans, because we are swimming in Democrats. We're not even
right. I mean, some of it is the nature of the environment, and if you want to be effective in certainly a state legislative position, you have to be willing to find that solution. It's certainly easy to sit in your ideological corner and throw bombs and get nothing accomplished in your time in the legislature. And certainly there are those that view that as their mission. But when I was there, I have a young family, and if I was going to be gone, traveling the state, 100+ nights a year, I wanted to have something to show for it.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So I can't remember what you said. I interviewed you once on my terrestrial radio program, but I remember you said when I showed up, I just didn't want to put a book on the red button.
Yeah, so that's kind of the joke, right, is that in the assembly, in the lower house, you vote electronically, and you have your red or green button, and we would joke that there were plenty of people who could have just put a book on the red button and never showed up because they had no interest other than to vote no. And similarly, there were plenty of Democrats who could put a heavy book on the green button because they just voted for everything and and didn't put have that thought into the policy on a case by case. So we always kind of joked, you can't do that because it resets after each vote. So practically you cannot just put the heavy book on there. But
maybe a piece of tape or a spring-loaded mechanism.
Yeah, unfortunately, exactly. It's kind of like the Simpsons episode where Homer got to work from home and all he had to do was just hit the button every 15 minutes to keep the Springfield nuclear plant from exploding, and then he got fat. Yeah. His fingers were too fat to do it, so he got the duck that would undulate back and forth and hit it periodically.
I haven't seen that episode myself, but his description actually is quite humorous in and of itself.
It's it's a classic episode.
Okay, so
Homer's got to get a moo-moo and everything, so it's the perfect job for him. So,
all right, that's awesome. Pop culture references here, even better than mine, by a guy at least 5 years my senior. This is embarrassing.
I could probably split the atom if I didn't have all this other stuff populating my brain. But UBI.
All right, yeah, exactly. So, how familiar are you with just the UBI in general or Andrew Yang's proposals?
So not specifically, Mr. Yang's proposal, but I am well aware of UBI. I know that the city of Stockton, is moving forward with it.
They're 3 months into their.
I've been tracking that a little bit, just as from being a fellow city council representative and seeing how. Other cities are implementing some new programs, and so we'll track that and see how it plays out.
Okay, so then I guess what I'll do here is let me just I don't want to say devil's advocate, but let's just say I were pitching UBI.
Right.
You obviously have not dived into all the merits of Finland's program that supposedly failed, Stockton's program that's going on, Utah's system with the homeless that's very similar to UBI that actually worked resoundingly well, and this experiment that's actually going on right now in Stockton. So assuming you didn't know all of those details and I were just to kind of pitch you on Andrew Yang's specific idea, I'm just curious to see what you think, the practicality of it, the morality of it, just whatever your thoughts are. So Andrew Yang is proposing He calls it is UBI, but he calls it the freedom dividend. Just like companies and the investors in a company can at any point declare themselves a dividend through a vote, he's suggesting that the U.S. population, in order to compensate and prepare for what he calls the fourth industrial revolution, automation, that we begin a UBI program that starts out small at $1,000 a month and then hopefully grows. And it will be paid for by a VAT tax, a value-added tax, on all the companies that do indeed automate, because the stats are overwhelming. The number one job in 39 states for adult males is truck driver in 39 states. And the number one job for females in like 37 states is retail clerk.
Right.
And those are two of the three most under fire for automation jobs. I mean, Elon Musk would be driving freighters across the country right now if legislation hadn't stopped him. 10 years ago, he'd be delivering our goods via drones if legislation hadn't stopped him. And all of that legislation is kind of timing out and starting to go. So he's suggesting that if Amazon levels 3,000 jobs because they can bring in 300 robots and 10 people, that's fine. It's great, because then, those people aren't working as much. But if Amazon's making all this money off these robots don't pay taxes, but we can institute a value-added tax that would compensate for a UBI that would at least ease that transition. All right. So just first impressions. What do you think about that?
So first impressions is I feel like Mr. Yang is coming across like trying to find a way to distinguish himself from the other 20-some Democrat candidates.
Okay.
And, it seems that there is the race on those candidates to see how much free money they can give away, right?
Okay.
And I think that's his way of which is a more nuanced than free paying off your college debt or a Medicare for all, quote unquote, free healthcare. It's a more thoughtful approach, but I question about the ability for that to work in what are we, the fifth largest population in the world?
Yeah, seventh largest military, fifth largest population.
You start when you look at programs like I did study and was reading about Finland, and Finland's 5 million people, very homogeneous. They have kind of institutional government structures where that is not a significant change in their their government philosophy. And so I think starting out giving every American $1,000 a month off the top, it starts to become I think it would be hard to do it. And I think there would be resistance, and if you're making it a federal program, I think you would have big changes between federal and states. So I think I can applaud him for the forward thinking about the revolution, the industrial revolution, because I do agree that my kids and your kids will be the last generation to learn to drive.
That's a good way of looking at it.
My son's 15 and a half, got his permit. We're driving the roads of Santa Clarita to get him straight, but I don't believe his children that will be driving age in 30 years plus there will not be a need for them to drive. I absolutely agree with that as the technology is going to catch up, and that does fundamentally change the narrative on income. And I get so I know Milton Friedman supported and as a way to kind of eliminate the welfare state, and I can buy into, but I think it putting it forward as part of a presidential Democrat campaign taints it a little bit in my mind.
See, what's so interesting about this and why I wanted to bring you on is because that is 99.9% how I felt at the beginning. I was like, oh gosh, well, how do you compete against Bernie Sanders? You know what I'm saying? And what is this, a race to the left? But then I really did start studying. I read all of Milton Friedman's work. Okay. And yes, he had actually suggested it, saying, look, your welfare state has gotten so big at this point, we might as well just start writing checks directly and eliminate the bureaucracy as a massive net savings. Okay. And I started studying Utah, whose homeless program, their homeless bureaucracy had gotten so large without really truly alleviating the problem, they actually did that. They said, you want to know what? We're just making this super simple. Instead of having 800 bureaucrats, we're going to have 8 bureaucrats. And we're going to interview all the homeless, figure out who they are, what their social security numbers are and everything. And we're just going to write them a check and give them free housing. The only rule is if you are diagnosed with a mental illness, you have to be seeing a psychiatrist once a week. And like, that's it. Because at this point, it's better just to give you the money. And
so if there's drug use, they still get the check and everything, or are there any other standards?
To be honest with you,
I believe it is no questions asked. Anyone could receive it. The way they look at how that would work into it, kind of people misusing and misspending, is one of the main ways they plan on paying for this would be something, not all social programs, Social Security and veteran disabilities you would keep, but housing programs, SNAP, food stamps, stuff like that would be, the UBI would be instead. People would have the option, if they so choose, to keep their current benefits and not receive the UBI, or make up the difference. If they get 500 in SNAP, they can get 500 cash as well. But that's kind of the idea behind it.
Yeah, and so I don't want to be fanboying it here, but I just want to make sure that we have all the data so we can make the most correct judgment. What really attracted me to Andrew Yang's proposal, instead of just like a big giveaway that's wildly expensive, is he had a payment mechanism for it where the numbers actually check out. And he did say this. He said, okay, look, if you're receiving Section 8 housing and WIC and SNAP. And I mean, I helped some of my neighbors do some of their taxes that were receiving multi-generational welfare. I mean, it's equivalent of nearly a 6-figure income if you got multiple people in one house on it. It was crazy when I helped them do their taxes, how much money they were receiving from the state. But he did, a big frustration I had with them is they said, look, we go to WIC and it's great and we're glad that the government provides for this at our time of disability, but the only protein we get is the peanut butter.
Right.
Like, I actually have to try, like, my children, I try and track how healthy they are because of their special disability, and I actually have to go out and buy supplemental meats and this and that. So WIC's not this flawless, awesome system. And she said, I actually would kind of prefer just the $250 a month so I could go purchase what I know my child doesn't react to. So he actually does say this would wildly reduce the welfare state. And part of the way we would pay for it is we would just give the opportunity. You can stay on the welfare that you like. If that system is working for you, you can stay on it. Receive your Section 8 housing voucher, receive your SNAP, receive your WIC, receive your food stamps, whatever. Or you can switch to $1,000 a month. And the vast majority of people would rather switch to the $1,000 a month, which would net drop the amount of government influence in the state, and then also the amount that they're paying out to such a degree that all of a sudden, who knows, maybe we're all paying less.
So
right?
I think, and again, that's all good in theory, but so let's just take California, for example.
Exactly.
So 40 million people.
Uh-huh.
So you're going to do $1,000, so 12 grand a year for all, 40 million people. So that's federal dollars, I would assume, that come with that. The idea of drawing down and eliminating the bureaucracy is not as simple as that. Every state employee in California is represented. They're public. You have SEIU.
Are you suggesting that democratically controlled and manipulated unions are preventing progress?
No, but I would say you can't just. They're not at will at will employees. So what do you do with that bureaucracy? Right, like you can't. There's collective bargaining, and those jobs, are set. And it's one of the reasons California is going back. It will eventually have significant fiscal issues is our pension liabilities.
That's your euphemistic way of saying bankruptcy all over again.
It is, right? And while the budget is we have a budget surplus, when you really look at the math and you look at the PERS, public employees retirement system in California, I mean the liability there is really significant. I mean even you can take it at our city, in Santa Clarita, the third largest city in LA County, we're doing great. But we're at a point where we could have, I think, 30 to 50 employees are eligible to retire. Mm-hmm. And in California, you can retire at 55, making 80% of your salary, and then you're hiring in somebody else to finish that. And your 55 people are living longer, so there's that pension liability in California. So I question about the validity of really eliminating the bureaucracy, because a state like California, with the political clout and the reality of an influence of an employee union like SEIU, they are not just going to say, "Hey, that's cool. We're going to eliminate all of these state jobs now that everyone's just getting a check."
Okay, is there anything you can think of that would be a better alternative to preparing for the automation's I mean, there are 20 million to 30 million jobs, according to Forbes, that are about to get automated away. And by the way, we're not just talking about blue collar people that are doing repetitive tasks in manufacturing. One of the number one jobs that they think will get automated away now is paralegal. You're just going to be doing divorces via artificial intelligence.
Insurance underwriters as well. I think it's one of the fastest shrinking
insurance
industries.
Underwriting, anything. And so I totally understand kind of looking at this saying the theory is great, but in practicality, I don't see how the bureaucracies would let go of their power. I don't see how X, Y, and Z thing would work. Is there anything you think that could work better? Because we've exhausted all of our thought processes on how to prep for the robots.
Right.
And by the way, I'm not asking you to think tank
for the
it.
robots.
How to prep for the robots. Skynet is
I was
coming.
just about to say, I'm waiting for Skynet to come knock on
become self-aware,
knock on the door. But I think look, some of the these jobs, there's going to be a natural pullback with the boomers. As the number of people that are already retiring. Our population is actually decreasing. In this country, millennials are not having kids
because we're taxed to death and we can't afford it.
I mean, you look at just like just here again in Santa Clarita, which is a very family-driven community. Our local school districts are seeing a decrease in enrollment because it's not because people are going to different alternatives. There are just fewer kids enrolling into our elementary schools and feeding up. And again, you can talk about a lot of factors in California, the cost of of housing. People here in Santa Clarita that my mom is a good example. I think yours as well. That they don't have kids, but they've anymore school age kids, but they're in the same house that we grew up in, and haven't chosen to leave, and it hasn't been backfilled. And so I think there will be some natural recession in terms of the workforce that I think is that will come into play that can be backfilled with the AI. But I also think that the understanding that this is coming, that will change the education standards and people will be
will it?
driven.
I mean, we haven't changed education in 60 years.
I would disagree that that we've changed, that education has changed. Not always for the better.
Yeah.
I want to say that.
We're so worried about teaching all these socialist Jews. We've forgotten reading, writing, and arithmetic. And, we still got like a 1960s way of telling kids to come in, sit down, shut up, and learn this, multiplication tables by rote in a system where that's no longer the most necessary thing. I mean, I view our lack of teaching emotional intelligence over statistical intelligence as one of our biggest not windfalls. What's the opposite of a windfall? Failings in the educational system. But that's a different topic for a different day. But I guess I'm just wondering what the UBI to me seems like it's the best, most natural safety net and the future of Western civilization in a world where most manual labor will be robotic.
If you can actually incur those those savings or make it revenue neutral, so to speak, with eliminating the bureaucracy, because that's my concern is, okay, well, in California, again, we have everything, we're taxed, highest tax state.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absurd.
But
you get less than half of your money here.
But then you throw in a VAT tax on top of that, and you haven't seen any, I've served in the California legislature. I've lived here my whole life. I've yet to see, hey, we're going to add this tax, but we're taking this one away.
Yeah, you've yet to see the Democrats who promise that it's revenue neutral, to actually show them make good on the promise. And that was a huge reservation for me because, for example, Reagan, California governor, like I said, super reasonable when it came to immigration. He said, yes, okay, we have a lot of illegals here. No, we don't want mass deportations. No, we want to be compassionate for people who lived here a long time. I will sign amnesty if you guys promise to secure the border. He signed amnesty, fulfilled his part. They never secured the border.
No.
They did the same thing to Bush. They did, and so with Jerry Brown's infamous 0.25% sales tax increase in order to buy books and desks and tables that ended up not paying for a single book, a single desk, or a single table.
Well, and you look at,
and we still pay the extra tax.
And you look at the gas tax, right? I mean, I travel, and you travel, we're on roads of other states that have much worse weather than we have in California, but yet they don't have the big road tax, and they're so nice and wide, and freshly paved. I-5 in Washington looks great, versus how it does in California. And I think that is, something that would really cause, I think, a lot of skepticism. And
so what would it take for a guy like you, who's obviously reasonable and rational and bringing up some good points, like just imagining yourself on the state assembly floor thinking, okay, we are the 5th largest population and 5th largest economy and the 7th largest military in the world, and we are about to build a plant that's building, I don't know, the F-35 Phantom or something, and 2,500 jobs are going to be gone of what used to be skilled machinists. Now, in order to maintain productivity, I don't want to be a Luddite and say, oh, no, don't use the robots to make the more superior F-35 that will help America and its allies. We don't want to be a Luddite and say no, but on the same token, we have to prepare for these citizens. Like, what would it take if there were a program like UBI or something similar to it to actually appease you and think you would actually say, hey, guys, we actually should go for this?
Right. I think, again, if there is a clear demonstration that the bureaucracy is drawn down and it remains kind of revenue neutral, then I would be supportive, because I get the idea of eliminating the bureaucracy, just the no questions asked. Then I guess if you're going to give everybody, it has to be equal. I know that you see some of this in the local tribes. Some of them through their gaming operations, they do. Every member of the tribe from the time they're born receives an X amount. Percentage.
Interesting. We've never talked about tribal dividends.
You do have that already. In the tribes. I'm not sure how well that has worked. Again, because with every tribal nation, they have their own rules and laws. So, we're already seeing some of that in California. It'll be interesting to see how the Stockton data comes out. But I think, again, it's, this UBI, by Universal's definition, you're giving to everybody then. Myself, you, it's not just, in Stockton, and in Finland, they're focusing predominantly on people who are already receiving government assistance.
Okay.
And so does that, so it would have to be a fair, system like giving to everybody. But I think it's hard to see, constitutionally, does this become a big federal, entitlement program again? I mean, even,
Andrew Yang did say the only thing the federal government's proven itself to be good about, and he sounds totally libertarian when he's saying this. He says the only thing we've proven ourselves to be good at as a federal government is writing large checks.
Yeah. But even then, like, you look at, state programs like the Medicaid, in California, that is still, predominantly federal dollars that are being, distributed to, the states to then be spent, on Medicaid. And so again, it's one thing to do it in a small, homogeneous nation that already kind of has some socialist bent to it.
Yeah.
Versus implementing something in the United States.
And Finland's problem is look at the Finnish. I mean, they're not people that are rip-roaring to do a 45-hour work week like your average hardworking American father.
And the Finns, I mean, it's out of necessity for them. They're they have a very slow population growth at this point. Their aging population is skyrocketing, and they are not backfilling to any degree. And so I think they are very concerned about how that population is, how that nation is going to continue. I know they tried to, their healthcare system is about to implode because it's so overloaded with their aging residents that the government had to dissolve because they tried to reform that system, and they couldn't get it done. There wasn't the political will, and so they've had to dissolve their government just in March. So with the elections coming up, so it's it's even in that small, what you would think is a doable nation, I can't imagine trying to implement something like that, across the states.
Okay, so then the last question is, you can answer this in just one sentence or one word, is understanding the heartbeat of the modern Republican Party. And I love the Republican Party. We're talking, this is the party of abolition, wasn't the Democrats. This is the party of Reagan and of Lincoln and of avant-garde economic thought. I mean, everybody that thinks UBI was a Democrat's idea is mistaken. No, this is Milton Friedman, Republicans' idea. Adam Smyth even scratched the surface. And Martin Luther King, raised in Republican household, was also the other big proponent of it. And Richard Nixon's House passed twice 2 versions of the UBI, but I can't remember if it was a Democrat senator or what, and he also had tons of problems with his administration anyway. It didn't make it through the U.S. Senate. So just understanding the heartbeat of the Republican Party, how would you describe the general receptiveness of the Republican Party to receive an idea like this and entertain it? Because I would love to see them become on the forefront of prepping for this economic fourth revolution instead of reacting to Democrats' proposals.
No, I think the knee jerk would be absolute opposition.
Dang it!
I think that's the knee jerk. Anyways, again,
that's fair. That's fair.
That because again, it just seems like that is the largest government entitlement program in history. Right?
Yeah.
If you're going to give, $1,000 a month.
Well, we already have the largest entitlement program in history. My view of it is this is our only chance to do what Clinton did and actually reduce welfare. So anyway, we know you got to go because you're a big deal. And
I am kind of a big deal.
you got
People
some
know
stuff to
me.
do. But you think it would be a knee-jerk response, huh?
That would be the initial knee-jerk response. But I think, and again, particularly for right or wrong, that it's coming from a Democrat candidate for president. During a time when every Democrat candidate for president is looking to compete to the left, with perceived and actual giveaways, and so I think that is so I would have very difficulty gaining any traction.
Any traction? I hear you. Okay, cool. All right. Well, here you have it. I would say out of the mouth of babes, but out of the mouth of thrice
don't
elected.
Call me old. Don't do the opposite of babes either.
No. But I would say successful term limit. The only reason why you stopped in the California State Assembly was because you can no longer run.
That I appreciate you pointing that out because you didn't say that at the beginning. I didn't want there to be the misperception that the voters replaced me after 3 terms. No,
that's true. I mean, he was so successful in a Dem plus at least 2 or 3 at that point election. You kept going because of your effective.
Yeah, I mean, I was the only Republican to represent the city of LA in the assembly at the time. So
yeah, exactly. So anyway, you've heard it out of the mouth of thrice elected state assemblyman, term limited, Cameron Smyth. Please let us know what you guys think of this video. Like it, smash that subscribe button, share this with your friends, and continue with the conversation below. If there's any other questions you have, we've invited actually our state senator to come on this program as well, and we're trying to coordinate with him if he's going to be available to give his opinions as well. So please let us know what you guys think, and we'll see you in the next video. This is Problem Solver Politics.